appreciate you all coming on such short notice to discuss this issue. The Dayton Unit NAACP, first of all, would like to say that our hearts are heavy to see a young man who's come from a family that has done nothing but good inside this community. A young man who has lost his life at the hands of a reckless, dangerous, insensitive driver. And we are calling upon the full scale of power coming from the prosecutor's office and the police department to ensure that this young lady pays the price for killing this man through her reckless behaviors. It doesn't make sense that this young lady had the opportunity to stop on numerous occasions throughout this pursuit. Not only that, she was also an individual who has ran from police before. So we need to make certain that we're doing everything, that the full weight of the law. We need to make sure they're doing everything to hold this young lady accountable for this death. And it's not just a death of a person. Many people could have been struck in this particular incident. As I viewed that videotape, I could not believe what I was witnessing with my own eyes. From her leaving from Free Pike in Gettysburg to pursue down inside of my community. And my community is straight down Free Pike to where her tires was flattened at the 4935 connector. She had an opportunity to stop there, but she kept riding. Tires falling off, but she kept riding. She blew through a red light. And we're talking about basically an interstate, for the most part, that's 50 miles an hour, blowing through a traffic light. Semi-trucks there. She don't know what's about to happen about somebody coming across this way, either in either direction. Then she gets on up past Little Richmond, going up a little bit further, and another light. She blows through another light. And then when she realized her tires were starting to erode, and she tried to change gears, tried to change lanes, just to have her car to do a 360 about 4 times, and almost struck another vehicle. At that point in time, she could have stopped at that point in time. The police tried to box her in. But what did she do? She wanted to go around the police and continue on with her reckless behavior until she came to the point to blow through another light and kill a man. We're going to look at legislation, and maybe we want to call this legislation Kobe's Law, because too many people are dying in these police pursuits. And it's something that people need to understand. If the police are asking you to stop, you need to stop. And we understand that police departments have policies set up in place that talk about when and when not to do pursuits and how that works. I'm going to have my criminal justice chair, Reverend Dr. David I. Fox, to talk about that. And because some of you all are new, I should have said this in the beginning, but Dr. Derrick L. Forward, that's D-E-R-R-I-C-K, L is my middle initial, F-O-W-A-R-D, President, Dayton Unit NAACP. I should have did that at the beginning. But who's going to speak now is Reverend Dr. David I. Fox. That's D-I-V-I-D, I, middle initial Fox, FOX, the chairperson of our Criminal Justice Committee, to talk about police pursuits. And before he gets into that, not only are we going to look at legislation, but we're also going to put together a task force to work with the law enforcement departments to see what are their policies and when should they stop the pursuit. So we're going to put together a task force, and I'm going to have Chairman Fox to lead that task force. Reverend Fox.
Well, much work has already been done in this area. Our Governor Mike DeWine has been a champion in this when he was Attorney General. Matter of fact, Betty Montgomery also, when she was Attorney General, was very much a part of dealing with this also. Governor DeWine, when he was Attorney General, put together several task forces, which we will then try to gather some of the information. They put some reports out, and we'll probably review those. We don't want to reinvent the wheel for something that's already been done real well. Matter of fact, on one of his task forces, one of our good friends, Dr. Rodney Carter, was on one of his task force. So we'll solicit him to be part of our group as we review and make some analytical understanding and knowledge of what has occurred within our region here in Dayton and also other parts of Montgomery County. What's so sad is that the National Traffic Safety Administration found from actually 1984 all the way to 2014, 352 people had died in pursuits. 147 of those were individuals who were bystanders. Wasn't even in the car, wasn't even driving, or they would just happen to be on the street at the time in which the police were pursuing an individual. Police can pursue based on exigent circumstances. If it's a felony, they can pursue. If it's an individual who is threatening police, they can pursue. And so the governor has been, like I said, a very much part of making sure that when people are being pursued by the police, that he at least is trying to call for some standards. They have yet to be able to put together any national standard for hot pursuits. There's no standard based upon the state. There have been some guidelines, model policies, but every jurisdiction or instrumentality has been recommended. Well, actually not recommended, but the law, actually Ohio Revised Code 2935.031 requires that every police department in the state has a pursuit policy, and so hopefully every police department has submitted that policy to the state of Ohio. And so what we're going to try to do is, I think we have like 23, 24 agencies within this jurisdiction, and we will be reviewing every one of their policies to see how they come together, if they even come together, because each police department has different policies, and that's another problem. So we say off the top that high felonies we support in pursuing, but anything less than that, traffic stops, petty theft, other misdemeanors, traffic stops in which definitely moving violations, we should just say no pursuits. But we do know that there are police departments that do allow those things to occur. And one of the things that we're really concerned about is if those departments which are not in our city are chasing people in our city, there is a problem, especially if their pursuit policy is different than the Dayton's pursuit policy. I think that any law enforcement agency that is in Montgomery County that's going to come into Dayton should have a policy that matches up with Dayton. At least that should be the beginning starting point.
And with that said, as we think about what the law enforcement officers are doing in that particular day, they were part of a Project Safe Neighborhood Targeted Enforcement that works to reduce gun violence, violent crime and gun violence. So they're out there doing their job. And we commend the police department for doing their job. Make no mistake about it. Criminals need to be off the street. Make no mistake about it. We're going to support the police when the police are in the right and they are doing their job to get these criminals and their criminal elements off the streets. Make no mistake about it. That this person is this woman. This woman here. She is the culprit in the cause of Kobe Ross' death. Make no mistake about it. It's not the police fault that this individual is dead. It is this lady's fault. And that's why I said at the top of this press conference that we are calling on the full weight of the law to come down and show her, especially when you have been in these kind of situations before, where you have ran from police before, the full weight of the law need to come down on you. As part, some of you were not here at the death of George Floyd when we called upon an 8-point strategy on criminal justice reform and police accountability. And part of our reform that we had over 20 law enforcement agencies in this county to sign off on, to get body cams. So when I think about the body cams from the video, that is a direct result of the advocacy work of the Dayton Unit NAACP at the death of George Floyd. We are the institution inside this community that work with these law enforcement agencies to show them the importance of it. And this is one of the significant items that came out of that, that showed exactly what happened in this particular case. But there was another element of our 8-point strategy on criminal justice reform. That's dealing with mental health. That's dealing with the mental stability of individuals who cause violent crimes. And we don't know, because we don't have any kind of reports on this young lady as of yet, to see what mental state she was in. But I would like for our first vice president to kind of talk about the mental capacity and what could cause a situation like this to happen if this person was mentally unstable. But be it as it may, mentally unstable or not, the full weight of the law, she needs to pay the price. So with that, First Vice President Maddie White, her name is spelled M-A-T-T-I-E, White, W-H-I-T-E, First Vice President, Dayton Unit NAACP.
Public safety is a paramount concern and essential to quality living. We do believe and encourage everyone to be vigilant, particularly as we are going to be experiencing an uptick or an increase in the operation of motor vehicles. Motorists will be out there, pedestrians will be out there, as well as others. So we're encouraging everyone to make sure that we are engaging in appropriate behavior, safe behaviors, to ensure that, as we say, that there are no opportunities or no situations, as you have heard about, that will be occurring. We do not know the state of the mind, the cognition of this person who has committed this act that has resulted in the loss of an individual's lives. We want to encourage everyone to make sure that you are accessing community mental health services, and make sure that you let someone know if there is a state of mind that would cause you not to be in proper control of a vehicle or in any situation that could cause harm to oneself or others. We do have mental health services in the Dayton and Montgomery County. We're asking everyone, all the stakeholders, because a community is only as healthy and as safe as those of us in this community engage in safe practices. We're encouraging you to each one reach one, look out for your neighbors. Certainly a mental health assessment is in order. However, it has been stated that accountability is necessary, but we do want to make sure that if it is an issue of a cognitive problem, we want to make sure that those services are being provided while one is being held accountable for one's action.
So before we open it up for questions, because we know that a news station, you came in a little bit late, but just to recap. Number one, the Dayton Unit NAACP is going to work with our local legislators to enact legislation dealing with, and as you already heard, Governor DeWine has already enacted some legislation, but we're talking about more specifically here inside of our jurisdiction, inside of the Dayton region, in the area that we cover, which is the county of Montgomery. And so we're going to be working on, with law enforcement, with our legislators to look at some legislation, dealing with the impact of how individuals who flee the police, because I don't think there's legislation dealing with people who flee the police. When there needs to be some type of legislation that deals with those individuals. Number two, when it deals with it'll come back to me. So what questions do you have? Because it was something else. It was two different things. It was two different action items, and one was the dealing with the legislation, and then the other is dealing with. I can't remember. So what questions do you have? Oh yeah, the task force. So we want to make certain we're going to put together a task force that's going to deal with this particular issue to look at the current laws on the books of the police departments in Montgomery County, Ohio.
As far as this legislation change, what are you guys looking to see done differently that is not already in the law, and then what are you looking to see come out of this?
Well, number one, I don't believe there is any legislation that deals with the fleeing person. There could be legislation that deals with law enforcement not chasing someone. We're talking about legislation that deals with the person who causes death of an individual, and that's what we're going to work to get it called the Kobe law, because this particular situation, had not it been for her reckless behaviors, he would still be alive today. And we need some legislation in place. So if you think about the Hooning bill that we just tackled here not too long ago, people coming inside of our community, taking over streets, doing 360s, all different kind of. So there was legislation that's being proposed that they impound vehicles, that they have misdemeanors put on their record, if not felonies, depending upon how flagrant it is. That's what I'm talking about. We're going to work with our legislators to come up with the legislation to deal with the individuals who cause death through the fleeing process.
So you'd like to see harsher legislation for whoever started the pursuit then?
Who started the pursuit, because the law enforcement officers, they are trying to track down the violent offenders, right? That's why they're chasing them to begin with. They're not chasing them just to chase them. They're chasing them for a reason, and that's because they have committed a felony. And they have the right to chase someone for committing a felony. But that's where the task force is going to come into play. What type of felony causes, what type of felony should the police department consider in their actual pursuit? Did this particular felony rise to the level of them to pursue her? That will be the question in terms of how our task force is going to be implemented. And Reverend Fox can speak more about that.
So
if you have a different opinion on that.
With the task force, I know that Montgomery County Sheriff's Office were the ones that were originally doing the pursuit, and Rob Streck, Sheriff, said that they also will be doing their own investigation when they do pursuits to make sure that all of the laws are followed and that they didn't do it out of control or out of hand. With your task force, are you guys going to be requesting those records to see and fact checking if they were in proper conduct?
Yeah, so through our relationship with the law enforcement officers who signed off on our 8-point strategy on criminal justice reform and police accountability, we have those relationships. And all we got to do is request the information. And I'm quite certain they will not hide the information from us because we have built a relationship with our local law enforcement agencies within this community. So we're partners from that regard.
And who all will be making up this task force?
The task force is going to be spearheaded by Reverend Fox. And as he stated earlier, there's another individual who served on the task force of Governor DeWine, which is Reverend Dr. Rockney Carter. And we're going to fill out the other individuals that we will announce at a later time.
So state and local leaders?
That's correct.
Go ahead.
We'd also like to say that we are encouraging intentional direct referral of grief counseling and other mental services to the victim's family.
Have you guys been in contact with the victim's family as of lately?
Yes. In fact, how I found out about this tragedy, I really didn't want to make it personal, but how I found out about this tragedy is I was just with this young man on Sunday at a Lynx Cooking Man event, the Dayton chapter of the Lynx Cooking Man event. And his father and I were to have a follow-up phone call about something else on Tuesday. And I called his father on Tuesday so we can talk about what it is that we were going to talk about. To learn that his son had succumbed to his injuries through a fatal crash. No, to somebody running into him and killing him. And that's how I found out about it. So.
I have another question, and not to be insensitive to the family, but why now? Was this something that you guys were always thinking of, or was this something that hit a little closer to home for you, to where you wanted to make this change?
No. If you look at another situation that just occurred hours ago, was another crash with Dayton police in another vehicle. If you think about a few months ago, there was a crash with law enforcement, I think in Troutwood, there on 35. So this is something that we've always have been talking about, but at the end of the day, we didn't put any teeth into it. But now you got loss of life. So you got to take action. When things severe happen, you got to take action. And it will be, and it's incumbent upon us as a civil rights organization to ensure that we're looking to put laws on the book that's going to matter for all of the Americans that live inside of our jurisdiction.
And also, Dr. Ford was a person who gave testimony at the hearing for the honing law, that legislation that has become about to ensure safety in neighborhoods, preventing individuals from going into the neighborhoods, doing traffic violations as a means of recreation. And also, too, the Dayton NAACP has been a supporter of the Ohio State Troopers Safety Program that they have talked about, in 2019, 2020. Mm-hmm. So the NAACP certainly is a proponent of safety with regards to the operating of vehicles and the pursuit of those who may be engaging in unlawful traffic action.
And let me make a point. Dayton has a very good policy on pursuit, but it's summertime, okay? And there are a lot of little kids running around out in the streets playing around. And if you got somebody flying through this city from another jurisdiction, and I'm not putting anything down on people from the jurisdiction, I'm just trying to explain to you. See, I served 40 years in law enforcement, okay? One of the worst things that I witnessed was hot pursuits, because most of the time that we were chasing somebody, the person on the other end that was a bystander, that something may have happened to that person as a result of that pursuit, was not worth this pursuit in the first place. Nobody's life is worth chasing a car because it's stolen. Nobody's life is worth because somebody that went inside of one of these stores and took maybe 2 pairs of pants. So at the end of the day, our concern more than anything right now is trying to make sure that we have a safer community in which our young kids can have an opportunity to grow up and live. Because I'm telling you, if a lot of this stuff don't stop, it's going to happen. Because at the end of the day, these young kids, they don't have any idea. You got your car. Now, and back to what your question that you asked, yeah, the police have, well, not the police, but there is laws that deal with people fleeing and looting from the police, okay? And then there is laws that when they try to elevate the crime. What Dr. Ford is talking about is something interesting. What he's talking about, it's the same way if I go into a store and I rob the store, in other words, I take something, and I leave that store and I knock an old lady down and I break her leg, it's no longer theft, it's now robbery. So what we're trying to do is take something, we don't know what the charge is because we haven't talked to the prosecutor, but usually it's kind of something like vehicular homicide, something of that nature. What we would like to see, because that person knowingly is fleeing from the police officer.
There you go.
Knowingly. And they knowingly run into somebody. Bring that crime up to a level in which more than just a vehicular homicide or aggravated vehicular homicide, take it up to a murder statute of some sort. And maybe, and just maybe, that'll change things. That's number one. Number two, for individuals who just run around here want to run from the police, take that existing legislation that we have and take that and make that a higher legislation that will stop some of this craziness that these people are doing. Because you know good and well, like I said, it's getting warm, and these young folks running around here stealing these cars, they're gonna be fleeing through this city. So what we got to do is try to discourage them any kind of way that we can. And I think Dr. Ford is right. If we increase and try to get that increase in of the legislation penalties on these individuals, it'll make hopefully a dent in some of these chases.
Which goes back to us looking at that honing bill, and yes, I did provide testimony on that. In fact, it was me using my role as the president of Northern Hills Neighborhood Association, which is how all that came about. Because way back in 2019 is when all that started with all this honing business. So if you check your records, you will see that all this stuff regarding honing started back in about 2019. So we look at ways to prevent things. Once something has happened, once you identify an issue, you need to make certain that you have some type of action that's going to deliver a better result. And going back to the task force that we're going to create. When you think about this particular incident, I believe this incident originated in Butler County, Butler Township, I think. And what does their pursuits policy say? Coming into, which goes back to what Reverend Fox was saying, coming into our community. So this person came from a different jurisdiction into our community. So and that's why this task force is going to be very key. What are the various policies and how do they align with one another within the Dayton region? And that's what's important to us. When we see something wrong, our job is to do whatever we can to ensure that we can make it better. And we had to make this situation better.
Anything else?
No.
Like they said, that's a wrap.
Have you guys been working with local law enforcement through this?
Oh yeah, we've been working with local law enforcement for a while. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's why I said that our relationship with them is great.
Sure.
So we're not going to have any issues with trying to get information that we need to implement this task force, and then to work with them on ensuring that how we want to get these laws on the books and implement this task force, all that's going to be able to gel together, I believe, quite nicely. All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.